now that that's all starting up again, that is what tabletop games are, right? Is being right there in front of people. And even if it does mean more work and preparing a prototype or whatever, and you don't even need to. Honestly, a lot of these groups are happy to have people who are just there as play testers. And that's a good way to suss out if these people are for you as well. I'll say pretty much all tabletop game design groups that I've been a part of have been super welcoming and some of the friendliest people I've ever met.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Grow Up, Level Up. As always, my name is Samson, and I thank you for joining on to the show. This week, we have another good friend of mine as our special guest. They are one of my old coworkers turned bosses turned longtime friends now, and I have a lot of respect for them because not only are they a person who creates fun, they're also a person who enjoys having fun with many, many types of people, as well as that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. A little bit of housekeeping. We're going to if you're listening to this live or live on YouTube, we're going to have a special announcement in a couple weeks. So make sure you stay tuned to our socials and follow along for that, as well as join our Discord with the link below to stay tuned for what that special announcement is. It is kind of the next step on Grow Up, Level Up, and I want you to be there for it, so make sure you join our Discord for that. As well as follow myself and our guests' socials, who we'll introduce in a second, to stay tuned. So, as I jump the gun here, because I'm just so excited to bring in our special guest today. Our guest, we've worked together at a summer camp for many, many years. Since then, our guest has moved on to become an outdoor educator here in British Columbia, in beautiful British Columbia, and is now an outdoor educator as well as a board game designer or a tabletop game designer. Please welcome to the show, Sebastien Bernier-Wong. Yay!
Hello.
This is where I add in applause and confetti.
Cool. Nice.
So we'll see that. But Sebastien, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Samson. Good to be here. Thank you.
This is really exciting because I think you are one of the first folks I'm bringing on who has has multiple published games out on the market. And I'm sure we'll dive into that a bit later. But yeah, I think you're like a real certified professional game designer, and I think that's really neat.
Doesn't feel that way, but thank you. Yeah.
We'll definitely dive into what that is like and what games you have. But before we get into that, what did you bring today to drink on the podcast?
Cool. I have water.
Very, very healthy. Is it tap water or like spring water?
It's tap water.
Yep. Very nice. That is a common thing in BC. We have good tap water.
It's delicious.
So I brought the opposite. I got a nice white IPA beer. Ooh. I feel like I was drinking like Coke and protein shakes in the last few, and I'm like, time to even it out with some unhealthiness. So
Sidekick,
yeah, Sidekick Brewing, just over in Chilliwack in BC. Actually, stumbled upon it. So thanks for sharing your drink. Very tasty. The healthy and unhealthy choice.
Very simple.
Yeah. My other icebreaker question I ask every guest is, what are your top 3 games of all time? And it could be video games or tabletop games. I know our theme right now is tabletop games. So what are your top 3 games of all time?
Sure. It's always changing. It's so hard to pick 3.
Interesting.
I kind of have maybe 3 from 3 different categories.
Okay.
But one of the top games for me of all time has been Capture the Flag, or games like Capture the Flag.
Yeah,
I know it's either a video game or a tabletop game, but I feel like this is one of those games that so many people get into. It's just so easy to play.
That's true. Yeah. And it can be played in like playgrounds or camps or anywhere, really. Cool.
They get kind of at the base. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you still play capture the flag? Most people associate that with like kids and stuff, right?
Not so much anymore, no. But I feel like it's just one of those games that's at the basis, like it gets to the core of what a game should be, and that's
Mm.
connection and kind of like you just get to play it how you want, right?
Mhm.
Be that person who's really hunting for that flag and sneaking around, or you could be all about just hanging out at the line and defending, or honestly just socializing. There's always people who are just hanging out, not even playing the game, but they're still a part of it.
It's true.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's so great about Capture the Flag. It's just inclusive.
I never thought about it that way. That yeah, there is
Yeah.
like there's the goals, but then everybody you have the fast people that are the runners and maybe people that are better at defending and they're back and yeah, the people that just socialize along the way. That's I never thought about capture the flag that way. That's amazing.
Totally. Yeah.
What
Um,
what about number two?
Number two, series here, Age of Empires.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
Bit
Way
different
different
than
than
capture the flag. Yeah.
way different than Capture the Flag. No, but Age of Empires is a game that um, it just it goes way back for me. It was one of those first games that I saw somebody playing was like, in elementary school, middle school, and it was just like, whoa, that is awesome. Um, just like having all these different units and stats and kind of the nerd in me was just
Mhm.
way into it. Plus, it had the medieval theming, which was definitely super into when I was younger.
Yeah.
Got to grow up with that game too. Actually, get good at it. I never got good at it, but it was just fun.
It's one of those games that have a really high skill ceiling, but the theming is really cool.
Mhm.
For folks who don't know that are listening to the podcast, Age of Empires is a computer game where you're I guess you're the commander technically, and your goal is to move little units of soldiers and catapults and uh, horses and knights to defeat the other people. But I think is Age of Empires the one where it incorporates like some mythology into that as well? Like there's like
Yeah,
Roman
there
gods?
is, there is a like Age of Mythology, I guess.
Oh,
Not
I maybe thinking of
yeah,
that one.
like later on in the series, they did that one for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, so it is like a strategy game. You're playing against other people. It's like chess times 100, I guess.
totally. I don't think I ever got on the level of like I was looking at some videos recently, and people who are playing competitively are think like on a way different level than I was playing this game.
hmm
Where it's just
hmm
fun to muck
Yeah.
around with all the different stuff in there.
Yeah, no, similarly, I have some friends who got back into StarCraft, also kind of a
Yeah,
strategy game. And yeah, it's just the skill ceiling is so high. People's fingers like flying everywhere. It's intense. I don't know
totally.
how
And
people
just
do it.
remembering how like starting moves, I can't even play chess. I can't remember the starting moves
Yeah,
and how all those go. And in Age of Empires, it's like it seems like that, but like you said, times 100 or whatever. It's
totally. Yeah,
beyond.
it's a big brain game, as they say.
What
What about your third game?
third game. I guess I should represent the tabletop side as well here. But yeah, always rotating, but one game that I've been playing a lot of lately has been Wingspan. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh,
that.
yes, I have actually, but go ahead, expound.
And yeah, Wingspan is it's a board game. It's primarily played with cards. Each card represents a different bird. Um, and you try to attract these birds into your sanctuary, or at least that's how the theming goes of it.
Mhm.
Um, and so as you're playing birds into your sanctuary, which is kind of like a little tableau or a grid of cards that you put out in front of you, each of these birds offers up a different and unique power, um, like an ability essentially, which
Yeah.
in future turns you can then kind of combo into and use that to be able to play birds more efficiently or get resources. Because to play these birds, you need to have the food they need. I think what I really enjoy about this game is that it's through its gameplay, through its mechanics and mechanisms, you're learning just a little bit about each of these birds, and it's based somewhat on like these actual animals. So a bird that eats fish in this game, you need to have those fish resources in order to play it down. And then its ability may be related to what it does in real life as well. It's just kind of a fun, I think, way to learn about something through playing, but without this being an educational game and hitting you over the head with that. It's a game first and foremost, but gotta
It
learning things
sneaks
along.
in some education there.
Yeah, which is really tricky on a tabletop game.
Mhm. Yeah, I have played Wingspan a handful of times, and um, every time I do learn a new bird's name, as well as like what they do, where they're from. Especially, I think the game's divided into like a sea, a land, and
Mhm.
a ocean or a river area. So you kind of learn which bird belongs where. Um, yeah, and Wingspan's pretty fun. Lots of little egg tokens that roll around.
Lots
Yeah.
of bits for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely recommend Wingspan to whoever is looking for a tabletop game where you learn a little bit of something. It's very beautiful, and
Mhm.
it's most importantly, it's fun and brings people
Totally.
together.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great top three. I also appreciate the variety and the one of each you got there: the video game, tabletop, and the playground game, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, games come in so many different forms, and I just figured might as well represent all three there, or three of the many.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so going on talking a little bit more about you, I want to know a little bit about your day job. I'm assuming as an
Sure.
outdoor educator. What do you do for, I guess, the outdoor education space?
Sure. Yeah. So right now I'm working kind of as a manager of outdoor educators. I get to um, train new folks in the field and get to go out sometimes on some trips as well. Not as much as I used to, but
Mhm.
mostly mostly the training side of things.
Oh, okay.
I guess we do at this particular center where I'm working, we do all sorts of trips from canoeing and hiking, rock climbing, whitewater paddling, mountaineering, caving. It's runs the gamut here, and
Wow.
I'm by no means specialized in all of these things. Um, but the central theme of exploring oneself through outdoor pursuits is kind of what I get to instill in our new staff members and uh, try to help support throughout the way.
That's awesome. So,
Mhm.
with your years of experience, you now bring on the next generation of other outdoor educators, I guess, other leaders in the outdoor space.
In a very loose sense, I feel like all these people who are coming to be outdoor educators, at least here, they're coming in with some experience, right?
Mhm.
And really, what my role is here is to support them because I feel they already know where they need to be going, what they need to be doing to kind of grow into the next level of education or as an educator.
Mhm.
Um, but just seeing what they're doing and then supporting that and letting them know they're doing a good job or giving hints and bits and pieces here and there as
Mhm.
needed. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Um, is it like and I know this is like very subjective. Is it like a stressful job, or is it kind of like, oh, I get to be outside all day in the cool
Oh,
weather?
it it can be, right? It can be a stressful job at times.
Yeah.
We are out on some pretty big missions sometimes. And when things go south, we are it comes to me and the other program managers who I share a
Mhm.
job with to put out those fires and solve the problems as they come up.
Totally.
But that being said, it's such a rewarding space to be in, such a rewarding line of work, and um, wouldn't change it. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
good stuff.
Cool. How'd you end up in this role? Being an outdoor educator in BC and working in like canoeing and rock climbing and whitewater rafting and hiking, I guess. It's like the mountain person, mountain man kind of stereotype. All these different kinds of sports.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, we both started at a summer camp working together. And I had just been there for quite a few years, changing from being just a volunteer in day programs to running my own day programs and overnight programs, and then eventually the tripping, um, with the trips that this camp would do. Um, Eventually, it was just time to try something different, right? There were so many
Right.
opportunities there, but had to see somewhere else, and this kind of came up as a suggestion from our director back in the day.
Mhm.
And so I got to start from square one again, from
Oh,
being a camp leader at the first camp to a coordinator there, and then back to just an instructor here.
right, right.
Um,
Wow.
but was kind of seeking that out. It was really nice and humbling to kind of start from what seemed like zero again, because coming here was a whole other level. These were, I thought I knew a thing or two, having
Mhm.
run longer trips at our old camp. But you come here and realize, like, okay, these are proper outdoor guides. These are folks who have been in this industry for a while and have a lot of experience,
Wow.
but also were so open to sharing. And that's kind of what kept me in it. They were just, um, people were so willing to pass on knowledge and happy to share.
It's awesome.
And
It sounds like the community then is a huge factor in what made you stay in the space. It sounded like it was kind of lots to learn, humbling. So that's also kind of challenging sometimes. Being having to lose all that authority is challenging, but the community sounds like it kept you in there.
totally, yeah. Honestly, losing authority was a good thing. It was nice to
Oh,
just not have the responsibility.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
fair enough. That's awesome.
yeah,
Um, so going sideways from your time as an outdoor educator, I want to
mhm,
know more about you as a game designer and more specifically a tabletop game designer. We mentioned a little bit off the top, but um, you have published multiple tabletop games. I own a few. I should have brought some over, but I'll post the pictures in the video
yeah.
version. But yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your company, Firestarter Games?
Sure, okay. Um, but I guess, like, games started for me, like, very young. I'll be super brief on this, but
No,
basically,
no,
I
it's
have 2
okay. Go.
younger brothers,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
games was a way to connect with them. I think naturally I'm very focused on my own little world, but being able to create something and with a purpose for the younger brothers and for the other kids in my neighborhood is really huge. So making silly little like mini putt courses or little board
Mm,
games, whatever to share. And then when I eventually found out, like, learned a little bit of coding or like one of my top 3 games that I didn't list was it's more of a program actually, but, like,
sure.
I don't know if you've heard of RPG Maker.
I have. I think I've tried it
But
once, but it was so overwhelming. But yeah,
yeah,
no, I've heard of RPG Baker. Yeah.
got super into, like, RPG Maker 95
Oh, 95, like
and, like,
Windows
scenario
95.
creators and Age of Empires and stuff like that, and just building
Oh,
little it was so much fun.
cool.
Anyway, so much fun that to the point that I thought I went to school for game design. Um, so Yeah, it was in university that I took this course on game design, and it was like a mix of digital and tabletop game design. And the tabletop component was like a whole new world to me. I had been, as I said, like learning how to code on my own and making little flash games, and I thought it was hot shit because I was like selling those online too.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
tabletop world, they're not amazing. I don't know if you remember the Flash game days very well, but there were some
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
games,
Yeah. Some really janky animations for
like
sure.
some rip
Yeah.
offs and stuff. And I was a
Yeah.
part of making some of those. To me, they were still fun, but maybe not to the mass public.
No,
anyways, learned about tabletop games through this course, and we had to make one. And my professor, Peter Garniak, really took to one of the games that my group and I had created um, in this class and just asked if any of us wanted to take it further, which I was super down for.
Yeah.
So we developed this game, which was kind of like a mix of deck building and worker placement. That was the assignment of this class or of that project.
Mhm.
Um, was like a naval skirmish game where you will sail a little ship around by playing cards, and then you're firing cannons at each other using these cards. And um, anyways, we developed that further and further. Would bring it to like tabletop conventions in Vancouver or New Westminster, and eventually we sought out a publisher for it, uh, and kind of like went through that whole process.
Wow.
It's through like going through that publishing process and I kind of like realized, okay, this is actually, um, I don't know, I learned a little bit from this publisher basically
Okay.
on what that looks like. And then years and years down the line, my friend Daniel from where I'm working at right now,
Yeah.
we figured over COVID that we'd like something to work on because we couldn't really work outdoors. You couldn't work with people face to
Right.
face. So digitally over Discord, we would just chat about game designs and like make our own little card games and share them.
Cool. Okay.
And we needed a vessel to publish them through. So that's how we started Firestarter Games.
Oh, okay.
Ancient
So
with
I know. I think we got the gist of it. So this journey into game design started from university, I guess. Well, actually, started from your childhood. You being an older brother with two younger brothers, just like myself.
Yep.
um, uh, you were tasked to like make these little projects and little worlds and experiences for everyone younger than you, and that kind of passion and skill translated to a tabletop game design course, all the way to going into the publishing process. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to ask, like, that pirate ship game into the publishing, how many years of work was that, um, from like conception in that school project to, and I'm kind of jumping the lead here, but into the game now known as Seas of Havoc.
Yeah, I believe the project was like first given as an assignment in 2013.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's been a long journey for it. A lot of that was just we took time away from this game, and it's not
Mm,
like we were working super hard on it all the time. It was more just a fun project to have on the side.
mhm.
Um, but
Oh,
kind of plugged away at it for
wow. Okay.
well,
So it wasn't like like you were working on it every day, um, part time. You were kind of coming back to it, refining the idea until one day you guys were happy with the end product and able to convince a publisher to mass print it and sell it, I guess.
totally. Yeah.
Cool. And for Firestarter Games, that was a company started by you and your friend Daniel, you said,
Yeah.
over the pandemic.
Over the pandemic, yeah, I can't say we knew much about starting a business on our own here. I think he has taken, some business schooling,
Yeah,
and so that
fair
definitely
enough.
gave me the confidence to be like, "Cool, all right, let's make this connection. Let's do this."
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely needed that kick in the pants of a friend who knew what was going on a little bit.
yeah,
Make
always
it happen.
easier with a co-founder, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, can you tell me a little bit about the games that you make with Firestarter Games, and then maybe after that we can dive a little bit into Seas of Havoc, since that is a little bit different from the offerings you have at Firestarter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Our big thing with Firestarter games, at least for now, is that we want games that are going to be packable and that basically can be taken out on outdoor trips, which Dan and I both kind of met doing, and that's kind of our passion. Um, and so we want our games also to be themed a little bit around that, an appreciation of the outdoors in many different ways.
Yeah.
So for now, that just means card games for us, and in as small a box as possible. In the case of the two games that we have out right now, it's the box itself unfolds to be the rules sheet that you need to play the game with. We're just trying to minimize as much as possible, um, I guess, the amount of space that the game requires, but also the amount of stuff people have to have. A lot of
Yeah.
games in boxes that are far bigger than are needed, and
Yeah.
I think we can definitely minimize our stuff.
Yeah.
That's what.
That's pretty cool. It's like two things from that is yeah, the the charm of it comes from the rules also being the box when you unfold it. And I think one of your games there's only like 20 cards or so in the whole game, right?
Yeah. The two that are out right now are just 36 cards apiece.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so very, very packable, like good for those camping trips or maybe leaving it in the car and taking it out when you have some time to kill. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. What's another quote I've heard? And you took the game design course, so you tell me
Different.
if this is right or not, but like creativity comes from restriction or something like that. Like if you have a set of rules, you have to be more creative how to get around it. So,
Absolutely, yeah. Constraints are super important, at least for me when designing. Um, and it just helps rein in. You can go in so many directions when you say, I want to start making a game. But if
right.
you know, okay, I'm limited by 36 cards and no other components, it really helps.
That's awesome. And that is just a rule that you've made for yourself in your game design philosophy. Is that right? Like
It's like a
no one's
rule.
holding you. Yeah.
No one's holding us to it, and it's a
Yeah.
rule we might be willing to break down the line. But we
Fair
knew
enough.
when we started that it's daunting enough to create a game and to bring it to market. So as uh, the more kind of borders we give ourselves, the easier it is to stay on track.
That's awesome. Um, and before we kind of close up on Firestarter, where can people find your games to buy or to play or to check out?
Sure. We have our website is just firestarter.games,
Cool.
or yeah, search Firestarter Games on social media and you'll find something there.
Awesome. So yeah, and I'll post the link down below as well, so folks can find that. They are very charming games. I believe one is about maple syrup farming,
Yeah.
and the other one's about building a river. Is that right? I forget the
That's
names off
right.
the top of my
Yeah.
head. That's
Mhm.
awesome. So that those are kind of your smaller packages, but you also have um, like a big box game, I guess, with lots of components, lots of theming, called Seas of Havoc. And that game, I've played it a couple times. Honestly, me and my friends were all kind of big fans of being pirates. So when there was a pirate tabletop game coming out, like we were all pretty excited, and we've been pretty happy with how we played that. We kind of dove into the history of it with you coming through your game design course. But is there any other stories that you want to share from that experience? Maybe what the publishing experience was like, because now you're bringing in a third party to take over your project, more or less.
Totally. Yeah. Publishing was scary, from like pitching it in the first place to all the like interaction you have with your publisher who feels like you're up there and you're like literally first time game designer.
Yeah.
But there were some steps that definitely made it feel more approachable. Um, we first managed to get an actual time to pitch with this publisher, Rock Manor Games, by joining a speed dating event essentially for
Oh,
pitching new games, which is really fun.
okay,
You're like
interesting.
I can't remember the number, but essentially it's like having 10 game designers and then 10 publishers, and you kind of like rotate through them. This was during the pandemic as well, so it was all done via video.
Right.
Um, like prepared a little pitch for them, went through these 10 different publishers, and it stuck with Mike at Rock Matter. And yeah, we just kind of like continued chatting over emails and videos, basically. Um, yes, they take the game and then they're the ones publishing it and like kind of choosing the art and everything. But at least this relationship we have has been pretty collaborative. They have been, asking us, hey, what kind of art style do you want for this game? Can you show us some ideas of what you're looking for? And then we gave some ideas, and then he's throwing some as well towards Peter and I. Ultimately, we kind of go with an artist that can actually do what we're asking as well. Um, and then Mike brought in some great ideas for the game as well. Little things like, for instance, you've played it now, so you know that there's like different characters and different ships, and they have their own little personalities. And you give a captain a ship, and that's kind of like the starting deck. Essentially, you mix these
Yeah.
two pieces together.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an idea of his. He took some mechanics that we still had. We still had different player or like different abilities and whatnot, but they weren't necessarily tied to specific captains or ships. And he said, "Hey, here's this idea. Run with it." And then we got to develop through that. Just kind of an
Cool.
example. It is like it. The publisher brings something to the game for sure. They're
Okay.
not just throwing it out in the world.
Yeah, they're not just pumping money into the art and the advertising and then saying see ya. That it is like a collaborative process. They're giving you ideas, but also giving you the freedom to elaborate on those ideas and build them out into a better game, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what they want. They want to be able to publish a good game. And, that's what we want too. And Mike Nade was very trusting of us in continuing the development of the game. So it's really nice.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that it was like a really good experience with this publisher.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, going back a little bit, the speed dating event for I guess it's like a rapid pitch for board games. How'd you get involved in something like that?
I honestly can't remember.
That's
I
fair
think
enough.
Peter and I both knew we were looking to pitch the game. I think he just had the initiative. He kind of knew he was in the world. He's been in the world of board games for a while, not necessarily publishing them, but in game design and through playing games, it's been a big passion of his. He just happened to know this event called Nun Pub, which is usually a physical event where people go and play test up and coming board games. And then through the digital version of this over the pandemic, they had the same speed dating event that I guess they have in person, which normally doesn't happen in Vancouver. So we were very fortunate to have that opportunity online.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool that these opportunities do exist, especially with the advent of online calls as we are doing now. It makes opportunities like this able or available for game designers like yourself.
Totally. Yeah. Helps. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So are there any fun stories from your game development process?
Any fun stories? I think it's just been so fun getting to meet so many people through game development. One of the big things you need to do is play test, right? You've got this thing and you have no idea if it's going to work for your target audience. And I've had found multiple different play test groups, both in person and online. And like, I'm not a person who really likes to put myself out there, but the passion for these games that I was making was kind of trumped that and got me to communicating with people and saying, "Hey, can I join this group you've got in Victoria or online?" So on and so forth. And just getting to meet people who are also kind of feeling exactly similar to me, like not maybe like super social, but well, that's not true because people are very social, but like, maybe having a little bit of anxiety around joining this bigger group of people.
Yeah.
But
Meeting
there's
new people is scary sometimes, but
totally,
to be
but there's
fair,
a
yeah.
lot of passion for like connecting people through games.
Hmm.
So everyone's there for the right reasons, and so when they see a game, they're like so ready to share their feedback on how things can be improved because they just want to see another project that can bring people together. Doesn't matter who's bringing it into the world. There's not really much of a
Hmm.
competition in the tabletop space. Um, it's very collaborative.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. It's the like games being a vessel to bring folks together, and it kind of feeds back into itself. These folks come together to make more games that bring more people together. Um,
totally.
yeah, that's really
Yeah,
special. Yeah, we had another episode that you
really.
can check out with a mutual friend of ours, Graham Thompson, talking about tabletop games as well. And one of the aspects that tabletop games have that not many other, I guess, game mediums have is that you have to sit together and play face to face and be collaborative in an intimate environment. And that's kind of one of the special things that I find, at least, about tabletop games.
Totally. Yeah. Everyone is there and on board to have a good time.
Mhm. So another question, maybe more for folks who want to become tabletop game designers. Do you have any advice for people who want to get into this industry, or um, even not just tabletop games or like video games and stuff, as someone who has created many, many games themselves?
Totally. I think the hardest part of getting into the industry is um, it's really like how to say like getting your projects actually out there. You can be
Okay.
working away, hermiting away, and like making this game, but for one, you don't know if it's actually going to hit with anybody unless you're going out and play testing, which
Mm.
is maybe my biggest piece of advice is just get play testing as early as you possibly can. It
Hmm.
can be super scary and super daunting, um, knowing that your game is maybe in an unfinished form or doesn't have artwork or there's still some broken things. But it's through just checking in with people and asking them, hey, how does this feel to you that you're going to see what needs to be further developed in that game. Um, and at least for my part, it's like through doing things like this, I got more comfortable with speaking to people about games
Mm.
and eventually got me feeling comfortable with the idea of like, okay, let's bring this to a publisher. Maybe I am ready.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I think the business term for it, and I'm picking this up because I work at a startup accelerator. It's market validation or product
Okay.
market fit, and it's basically that idea that you're talking about. You want to talk to folks and see like what's working for them, what's not working for them, to be able to make a product that is like fun or worth having, I guess. Um,
Like,
that's just the businessy side. Um,
yeah.
but for the community side, like, how did you initially find these groups to hang out with and to collaborate with?
Sure. Um, I guess for me, a lot of it started online back when I
Oh,
was like doing flash games or stuff through RPG Maker. It was like hitting up all the forums and just like joining little communities online.
mhm,
Because for me that was easier. I could just be distant and not necessarily myself. Just
yeah,
an avatar. If
yeah.
even that, often I don't
It's
use
just a
one.
made up name. It is easier, yeah.
Um, and then for the tabletop stuff, eventually I had just moved to Victoria, for instance,
Hmm.
and I just looked up on Facebook
Oh,
Victoria
okay.
game design or like Victoria game groups or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then that's how I found one of the groups that I ended up meeting in person with.
Yeah.
Um, and then I did the same when I moved away from Victoria and had to find other people. Just kind of looked up and found the Vancouver playtest group, which meets both in person and online.
Yeah.
I obviously can't be there in person where I am, but I can still be online. So every now and again, I get to meet up with them.
Oh, cool. Um, when you play online, so do you use something like Tabletop Simulator, or is there any other similar tools that you use?
Totally, there's a bunch of different tools.
Mhm.
Not all are created equal, and tabletop
Fair
simulator
enough.
certainly has its quirks and has like a kind of a high barrier to entry at being $20, which
Yeah.
doesn't seem like much to some, but like I don't know, it can feel like a lot. Anyways, that's
Mhm.
definitely the one I would recommend. It's a lot of people use, um, because you can iterate so quickly online through that. It's almost easier than um, like updating your paper prototypes, which you make a lot of in tabletop games.
Right.
Lots of arts and crafts goes into it,
Yeah.
and sleeving cards. But uh, it's definitely a nice tool to be using, and I think
Okay.
these days one of the ones that gets used quite a bit.
Cool. So, looking up groups on Facebook, as well as get yourself a copy of Tabletop Simulator if you want to start networking online, or yeah, in person in your city, I guess. Yeah, there are lots of these meetup groups that meet up. Is it once a week or like every week, or it depends?
Different group by group, right? Yeah, but I honestly, it's nice to get the ones in person. I think.
Mhm.
Now that that's all starting up again, that is what tabletop games are, right? Is being right there in front of people. And even if it
Mhm.
does mean more work and preparing a prototype or whatever, and you don't even need to. Honestly, a lot of these groups are happy to have people who are just there as play testers. And that's a good way to suss
Mm.
out if these people are for you as well. I'll say pretty much all tabletop game design groups that I've been a part of have been super welcoming and some of the friendliest people I've ever met.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, all the same,
Yeah.
it can be a good way to test it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great point too. Is if you want to get involved, you don't have to bring a game. You can just show up and play some stuff. Try to uh, optimize people's games, give feedback. It's all part of being part of the community.
You learn a whole bunch about how to give good feedback by listening
Um,
to other people give feedback during these sessions.
oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah, it
cool,
helps you think critically for sure.
cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing all these cool tips and tricks for those who want to become game designers themselves, or uh, or even just meet some people that are passionate about tabletop games and games in person as general. Yeah.
Ugh.
Um, Similarly, I guess, what draws you to the physical in-person part of tabletop games compared to those online flash games you played or Age of Empires?
At least in the development side of things, like you can get so I could personally I could get so lost in my own world in
Hmm.
developing digital games
Okay.
and saw that as being almost an issue for myself. It's the reason
Oh.
why, like partway through finishing this degree in uh was interactive arts and technology, I realized like, okay, the technology side of things, maybe not for me. I really love it. I really enjoy building these systems and these websites and all these bits and pieces online. But at the same time, I was working outdoors and realized that's the space I'd rather be in. And
Mhm.
developing like a card game, you can do, uh, just with paper and like separate yourself from the screen. And so that's why I gravitated more towards that. And the play testing is in person. Again, community was a big part of it. So
Cool. Yeah.
yeah,
That I kind of resonate with that. Like I spend a lot of time in front of a screen just for work,
eh,
and after work I just can't stare at any more screens. It's too flat. I need that kind of in-person stuff or something physical. And yeah, there is a time and place for both, and it's cool that you found that through tabletop games. Uh, yeah. Um, I guess my last question for our interview here before we go into our fun questions.
eh,
Um, uh, so what are some like recommendations you have for folks who want to get into tabletop games? Maybe someone listening
Cool.
is well versed in sports or video games, but they want to take
Yeah.
that jump into tabletop games. Do you have any recommendations? You can even recommend your own. That's totally cool.
No, I think um honestly, if you if there's a group of friends that you have who already have a game that they like to play, you should just get into that. It's
Hmm.
through through picking apart a game with friends, that I think you'll start to learn a little bit about game design.
Hmm.
You need a game that you can, discuss with people, maybe what the strategies are. So I'd say anything people want to play with you, really.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
yeah. What a great
Um,
answer. Sorry, go
well,
on.
totally. I think we can only benefit the game space can only benefit from different voices. And
Hmm.
if we're recommending specific games for people to play, um, and marking those as this is good game design, then we
Hmm.
might be missing out on a whole other world of opportunities, and
Hmm.
different directions that people can be coming from. So while there are definitely some staples of game design, especially for specific mechanisms, um, which I'm sure if you just Google, you'll find plenty of lists there. I'd
Yeah.
just say honestly, whatever you have on hand, just start picking that apart. See how you can maybe make it better or better suited to your
Oh,
group of people.
cool.
I think that's how you're going to get into it.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's a really cool answer. I didn't even think of it. Yeah, it's at the end there when you were talking about picking apart the rules and making it work for your group. It reminded me of Uno. It's like a very popular game, of course, but
Yeah,
every region has their own little variation on the rules or every little group.
totally.
So
Yeah.
that's yeah, but in the end, it brings people together. It gets people collaborating and talking and working out uh like conflicts on rules. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a really good point you bring up. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about uh your journey through game design and your experience publishing games and growing as a tabletop game designer. Is there anything else you want to add before we close up that subject?
Uh, nah, man. I just feel like anybody who wants to get into it, just do what feels right and try to
Mhm.
connect with as many people as you possibly can. You probably have something to contribute, or you definitely have something to contribute. Now it's just in communicating with people and finding your voice in the space um, that you can bring that to light for everyone.
That's awesome. Very beautifully put. Um, as we close out, I like to ask two really fun questions for our guests. The first one is a- is definitely one of my favorite ones I get to ask.
Sure.
So pretend that I am a bajillionaire and I would
Mhm.
like to fund your dream project. And I'm sure you have a couple in your head already, so and no need to give it all away. But I would like to fund the development of your dream tabletop game or video game. I'll let you work on it full time. You get full control. You get to collaborate with whoever you want. What kind of game would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would want
What?
to, yeah, I would love to make a game that, in general, is going to do, harkening back to Wingspan here, a bit of a sneaky teach, a
Oh,
little bit of
okay.
sneaky learning around the environment that you're in. And for us, it's, you know, uh, here on the Pacific Northwest coast. Um, so very loosely, I know that is, uh, would be the driving force behind it.
Mhm.
Beyond that, honestly, it could go in so many different directions. There's so many things that you can learn about. Um, and I think it would have to be in collaboration with what you would be interested in because collaborating is going to be so much easier than just me coming up with a game myself.
Mm.
Then maybe what the artist is into and mixing those
Okay.
things together. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's mm,
So the overall theme is we're gonna teach some people some things, but your dream would be to collaborate with a team and build something together.
yeah. and maybe more specifically, like teach folks something about the natural world, about the spaces that we are becoming less and less connected with, or are having fewer and fewer opportunities to engage with meaningfully,
Mhm.
and are maybe getting a little more afraid of, perhaps, or distant from. So somehow reconnecting people with these spaces and these concepts. I think that's important.
Cool. That's very beautifully put. Can't wait to see what you come up with in the sneaky teach genre.
Yeah,
Similar to Wingspan, I guess. But yeah, that's a great answer. I'm really looking forward for whatever that game is in the future. Um, and my final question for you is, what is your one piece of wisdom to leave with the world? I know you have lots, so
yeah, no, totally. I think it's just that like everybody has something to contribute, and um, we just all need to do our best to find a positive way to share that with the world, and that doesn't impose on other people's contributions as well. Yeah,
awesome.
be
Um,
collaborative.
be collaborative. That should be on a poster somewhere. I
Yeah,
like that. Um, Seb, thank you so much for joining me today on this online version of Grow Up, Level Up, talking about your experience as a game designer, growing up in nature, and trying to incorporate those two passions together into tabletop games. Um, so, if people want to connect with you or your company or whatever projects you're up to, how can people do that?
sure. Um, Honestly, just best through Firestarter games. I don't hold much of a social media presence myself,
Mhm.
so um, yeah, on social media, Firestarter games or Firestarter board games is how you'll find us.
Awesome. And I'll post the links in the description below for our folks watching on YouTube or listening on podcasts. For me, you can find me at SamsonXP on Instagram and Twitter, or sorry, Instagram and X now, as well as YouTube at Grow Up Level Up, at Grow Up Level Up on Instagram and X as well. But thank you so much for joining. If you're listening for the first time, I recommend you check out our other episodes. And if you're coming back again, if you enjoyed what you listened to, please subscribe or leave a thumbs up. Seb, once again, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, Samson, thanks for making this happen. It's fun.
Yeah. And everyone else, will see you next time. Bye.